Welcome to today's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Bob Rinaldi, President of Rinaldi Advisory Services. Thanks for joining me, Bob.
Hey, my pleasure.
And I was kind of mentioned you before, very jealous of your little background there. And hopefully we can get through this without you having to break into one of those cigars behind you.
Well, I'll give credit to the Davidoff of Geneva Lounge in Houston, Texas, and we're not allowed to talk, on phones or anything like that in the actual lounge itself. So they were kind enough to say, "Why don't you just do it in the humidor?" So I can't think of a better place to be. Yeah, I wish my humidor at home was this big, but if it was, I'd probably be. I don't know. I probably wouldn't be on this call.
No, there'd probably be a chair in there, maybe a bathroom, and then you just stay in there the whole day. There's no reason to come out. So,
well, I'm kind of thinking about that right now. I just may not, after this interview, leave here.
fair enough. So, Bob, for the people who might not be familiar with equipment finance, maybe they've been living underneath a rock. Could you just kind of introduce yourself and your career in equipment finance?
Well, I mean, it goes all the way back to Xerox, where I started with my brother was there, and my two partners, future partners at ILC were there. And long story short, we started a leasing company, 84-ish timeframe, 85-ish timeframe, somewhere in there. We built it till about 96, and kind of like all leasing companies, you kind of get to a certain number where, your balance sheet, given your equity is just not big enough to handle your growth. And there's only a certain amount of, funding and warehouse lines you can go at that level. And it was, how to make a decision, sell the company, go in the securitization marketplace back then, or maybe even go public. But, it just worked out that we found a perfect partner at Provident Bank out of Cincinnati, which was a community bank of about 18 billion. And they bought us and basically left us go and do what we do and provided the capital. And, we grew it fairly significantly from 96 to about 2004, when Provident Bank decided to sell the bank to National City. And, at that point in time, we were doing just shy of $1 billion a year in new footings and about $2 billion in assets. And then National City bought us in 2004, and then we built it under them. They did the same thing. They just poured the gas on us, and we grew it from about $1 billion a year in new footings and $2.5 billion in assets to 4 years later, before the wheels came off the bus in 2008, when they sold to PNC. And at that point, we were the 5th largest bank-owned leasing company in 2004 at about $3.5 billion in new footings a year and about $9.5 billion in assets. So, through that period of time, number of, I was responsible for, I guess, what's the new terminology now? Chief Growth Officer. I was basically doing new business, organic and inorganic growth strategies for the company. So kind of modeled ourselves after the old CIT and had about 11 verticals at the time, and everything from corporate aircraft to machine tool to IT to software, medical, healthcare. My partners, my brother Vince Rinaldi was the CEO. Denny Hurt was the other partner, and Denny ran all of healthcare, plus a bunch of other things that Denny did. And one of my closest friends today, along with Mike Rooney, who you probably know from Verdant. And so it was me and Mike and Denny and Vince, and we still stayed together long after the earnout in 2000. And no, it would have been 1999. The earnout was over. So we stuck together along with our whole team all the way up through, I want to say 2008. And then PNC bought us, and slowly but surely, either a little before or a little after that, we all started to go our own route. So that's the long and short of it. And did a few things after that, and decided to go into the consulting business, more of a by accident than on purpose, really.
So, like just sitting there spitballing with the wife regarding Rinaldi Advisory Services, how did that come to be? Do you want to just go out on your own, tired of, the big corporate thing?
No, not really. I got into a little bit of a battle with the company that I sold. I bought into a leasing company in 2014, sold it in 2015 to a small community bank out of Cincinnati. And then 3 years into that, we just couldn't, there was just personality conflict. And, actually the day I got terminated was also, I think, the same day my divorce became final. It was roughly all in the same week, long story short. So I walked out of there.
Bad intel by Jesse there. That's bad research.
No, it's okay. Nobody's really asked me about that. So no, I really wasn't conferring with my wife or anything like that. And I walked out of that. I got terminated, and I walked out, and I was kind of laughing. And I walked a couple streets away, and going to my apartment, and there was a cigar lounge there. And so I just decided to duck into the cigar lounge, have a cigar, and I don't know. I was just thinking about certain things, and one thing led to another. And somebody called me and said, "Hey, Bob, would you talk to me about this, that, and the other? And I'd like you to consider maybe taking over as CEO for a fintech." And I said, "I don't think so, but no, but happy to talk to you." And that turned into a consulting gig. And a couple of weeks later, I got another phone call from somebody I knew back about 10, haven't heard for 14 years, and said, this is going to sound weird to you, Bob, but I had a dream last night that I was supposed to call you. And that turned out to the next consulting gig. And before I knew it, I was consulting. And it was a really tumultuous period of my life at that point in time. And what was up was not up, what was down was not down. And it's kind of shit. Why not just, I guess I'm in consulting business, and I kind of like this.
The stars aligned, right?
So that was February, and I decided to come up with a logo and decide, all right, let's do this in about June. So June was really of 2018, really the beginning, officially getting into it and trying to figure out what part I wanted to play. And I just loved independent leasing companies and loved helping them grow. And before I knew it, Paul Fogel from Quality Leasing was my first client in October at the ELFA convention in 2018. I don't know what led him to call me or something like that. We just sat down and talked, and one thing led to another. And a couple of weeks later, we had an engagement, and he was my first true, honest to goodness Rinaldi Advisory Services real client at the time. And Paul and I are still really good friends today, and still a client today. And God, I love him to death. And he's, like all the rest of my clients, I mean, they tend to be friends. And I don't really know what comes first, client or friend, but it just kind of turned out. I just decided, I don't want to work with people I don't want to work with anymore. And I want to work with people I want to work with. And then I came up with this, I don't know if you saw on my website, I have a blog called Diversions, which is just about self-care and doing things you like to do, which was liquors and cognacs and tequila and cigars. And somebody said, you really shouldn't do that, marketing type. And I said, well, why shouldn't I do that? Well, it might turn certain people off. I said, well, I guess that might be a good thing, because that'll kind of weed out who's going to want to work with me, because I don't want to work with them if it's going to turn them off. So, it's, it's
so
like a big old.
So you're telling me I can limit the people I have no interest in talking with anyways? Brilliant.
Yeah, it kind of served its purpose, and I kind of have a blast doing it.
No, and I owe a big thank you to you. In 2005, my first ELFA conference. Remember when Boca? Was it Boca? We had that Hurricane Wilma.
I have to be honest with you. I don't remember much about that convention.
Well, no, I mean, rightfully so. I think there was 300 people that were eating and drinking for like 1,200.
Pretty much.
But
They opened up the bar 24/7. They opened up the coolers went down. The generator was only going to last for 36 hours. So they just cooked everything 24/7. And yeah, it was, it was a hurricane.
I remember that, but I walked in the first night and you just kind of put your arm around me and you're like, okay, kid, who do you want to meet? And I was 23, and you and Clyde, Valerie Jester, just introduced me to, I mean, who's seen Clyde? I haven't seen Clyde in forever, right? But, you guys just kind of introduced me around, and yeah, so that helped.
Well, I guess you're welcome.
But and I could see, I mean, your energy is contagious. Obviously you have a strong career of growing organizations, so I can definitely see where more and more companies would want to reach out and have your advisory services.
Oh, thank you. I hope I just kind of I am who I am. I'll tell you what I think, and you may not like it, but I had one client told me, you're the only one that's ever got away with telling me I'm full of shit. So, yeah, and what's your point? He's like, oh my God, and he's still a client today, and we're personal friends today, and I still tell him he's full of shit every once in a while, and he tells me I'm full of shit most of the time too. So,
hey, at least we know where things stand, right?
I like that.
So, as far as like, are you seeing anything? And working from home, my dog just tried to make an appearance, so he escaped from a door. Opens it up with his mouth. But anyhow, sorry. Couldn't get away with this 2 years ago. People would be like, it's so rude. But anyhow,
can't be more rude to me sitting in a humidor.
Fire one of those babies up. You're probably not allowed to. But any specific trends that you're seeing in the industry?
Well, the only trend I'm seeing, and I'm not sure how much of a trend, but it's, I think the popularity of our asset class, and the little secret that we all had, I guess, got out, that it truly is a hell of a good commercial lending asset class. It's probably the largest asset class in the commercial lending industry that nobody's ever heard of. And that's kind of how I would introduce it when I would do the guest lecture programs down at the University of Virginia at the Darden School of Business. And it kind of started from there, and it became just very, ELFA had a push to bring in community banks, but community banks were reticent for whatever reason. But I think the bloom is off that rose, and they've seen enough acquisitions of independent leasing companies by community banks to put a lot of credence in it and realize it's one way to kind of diversify their C&I asset base outside of commercial real estate. So, I think, is that a trend? Maybe. I think the other trend we're seeing is we're seeing a complete resurgence of the securitization, asset-backed equipment leasing securitization marketplace is as robust, if not more robust, than I've ever seen it. The other thing is I am seeing young people coming into the industry with a specific goal of going into the equipment leasing industry, which is absolutely unheard of. I've never known anybody do that. And again, my hat's off to the ELFA and the guest lecture program and the foundation, who's been doing a lot of work in offering now scholarships. So I think we're seeing a lot of that, and the mentoring of our young people, even though we're the older folks we are seeing, if there's a trend, we're aging out. The independent owners of leasing companies are starting to get to the point that they are aging out and thinking about what's next. So, I think we'll see a lot more acquisitions in 2022 of independent leasing companies of all sizes. And we'll see new entrants being banks who've never been in the space before getting in. Are those trends? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's,
you hit the nail on the head. I was curious for some of those banks that were acquired, and then are those people who were leading those organizations, how are they done? Are they going to spin off and go to one of these community banks and start something else up? So,
well, it's easier now than ever, I think, because of the reputation of the industry, that you will see and continue to always have seen that when there is an acquisition over a period of time, people spin out, whether after their earn out or they just don't like they're not real comfortable with the acquirer's methodologies. However they decide to employ it. I mean, if the community banks are smart, if they're going to acquire an entity, just leave them alone as much as possible. With obviously compliance has to be there. It has to get more buttoned down. But beyond that, just let them go and do their thing, and they'll be rewarded handsomely for it. But not all banks can do that. It's too tempting to meddle.
Is it safe to say that that's the exception, not the rule, when they let someone go? I mean, I think of like a Peoples and a Leaf, where I think that's probably one of the only things that I've actually seen where someone's actually let someone go, as opposed to coming in and taking over.
Well, I mean, you have incredible operators in Crit Dement and Miles and their whole team, Miles' whole team and Crit's whole team. I mean, they were solid. I mean, rock solid guys. Yeah. And why would you want to screw them up? And Provident, when they bought us, was very much the same way. And Bob Hoverson, who was the CEO at the bank at the time, I remember us going to him going, man, we're busting at the seams here in these hodgepodge offices that we had. Can we move down to the bank? You got a couple floors that are empty. And Bob said, not a shot. You're not coming down anywhere near us. We'll infect you. We'll pull you into meetings you shouldn't be in. And before you know it, you'll be a banker. And I'm going, we didn't know how to take that initially. So you want more space, we'll just build you a building. And they did. They built us a building on the IT campus, which was separate, and not the best part of town, but so they built us a building, and it's still there today, and it's still where the PNC guys are.
If my memory serves me correctly, there was a big boy right down the street. Because when I was at your office coming from Jersey the first time, I'm like, is that a big boy? I thought it was just on Austin Powers. When I saw it, I'm like, this is actually a restaurant. Like, that is great.
Yeah, it was a bit of an industrial area. It wasn't the nicest part of town, but it was cheap, and nobody really comes to see us. We go out to see them, so it worked for us.
That's fair. You already went into like the ELFA, the ETAC, the foundation, and some of these guest lecture programs. For people who watch these, a lot of people are just kind of getting in the space. What can they do, in particular with the ELFA, to immerse themselves in that organization, Bob, to get the best out of it?
Well, I mean, I've been on a board a lot of years, and ended up as chairman of the LFA. So I think that at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is kind of do what you did and tie in with somebody as a mentor. And I think that's the best way to go about it. Find a mentor who's been around the ELFA, or have the ELFA connect you up with somebody, and they do that. I think that's the best thing to do. There's plenty of ways to get involved, and they have pretty wide open arms. You're good. Don't worry. People coming in and look at some really good cigars. There's some really good ones over here on the left-hand corner. I mean, it's worth every dollar. The bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah. So and we're talking about Zoom calls and COVID. This is it.
It's May. It's fine. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But this is so like getting a mentor, like walking up to someone. I mean, that was the thing that I've always found in this industry. You could walk up to anyone and say, "Hey, could you help me out here?" And I would say 99 out of 100 times. I'm sure there's always going to be that one exception. People are willing to just kind of,
Yeah, for me, it was Dave Schaefer and Valerie Jester. Still dear friends of mine today. There's those two that kind of put their arm around me and, hey, I'll show you around, kid. And that's kind of how it all started, and volunteering for something I didn't know what I was volunteering for. And, before I knew it, I was already knee deep into it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was always one of those things I think you told me where it's like you give, but you get out what you put in.
Yeah, I found there are those people who join the ELFA and they expect that just because they joined, they're going to immediately get business out of out of members and stuff like that, and it just doesn't work like that. As you said, you giving comes first, receiving comes second. And if your heart's in the right place of really wanting to help somebody and help the organization, it'll come back to you. Maybe not directly. You might not be able to pinpoint it. But you're doing yourself and the industry a favor. So, that's the way I see it.
I think you're spot on there. And I ask everyone who I have on here to describe a little fun fact about themselves. So, something unique to yourself. Well, besides the fact that you have, an affinity for cigars.
Well, I think where I'm at kind of says it all. Fun fact.
This is just a little disclaimer. This is recorded and it will be on YouTube. So I just always have to,
Yeah, well, that helps. I just love people. I love learning new things.
What's the most expensive cigar you've ever smoked?
The one I'm having right now. Hold on.
Oh boy.
Every once in a great while, you deserve a treat. That's it. So
okay.
expense wise, that's $80.
Okay.
So I don't get me wrong. I don't do this all the time. It's like maybe
no.
Twice a year, I might do it. That's it.
I want to say I think the best cigar I've ever had is probably a Perdomo, like special edition. I don't want to say that was somewhere up in that range, but I don't know.
I get it. Well, it's just like some people, you might get a Johnny Walker Blue every once in a great while and try to buy that at a bar, and it's like $70, $80. Or Pappy Van Winkle, you want to try that, just half an ounce is, and at least
and make sure you have it as your first drink, because after the first drink, you can just be rail at that point. Because
pretty much, after all, that's gonna, that drink will last me 15 minutes, and this is like 2 hours. So
yeah, no, fair enough. Well, I'll let you get back at it there, Bob. Just kind of the last question here of the different consultants in equipment finance. Why come to you?
How about why not come to me?
Oh, I like that.
I like working with independents. I like working with banks who want to think outside the box. We have some great consultants in the industry. If it's sales related and sales development related, Scotty Wheeler is absolutely head and shoulders just the best. If you want big projects, boil the ocean kind of projects, and very complicated and very time consuming, but very intricate detail, and the Alta Group's your guy. And I love these guys, and they're client. I'm a client of theirs as well. So I think, for me, it's more strategic planning. It's more new business development, organic, inorganic growth strategies. Look at the strategic plan, deciding where you want to be, exit strategy planning. Not, if you're ready to sell like right now, then obviously Alta Group, Colonnade, those are just some of the two of the best out there as
Right.
investment bankers. But if you're not ready and you don't know when you're going to be ready, but you need to start thinking it through so you are prepared, uh, and to help you with a quicker sale, then yeah, that's where I get involved. If you're trying to get to point A to point B, yes, that's where I get involved. Um, and if you just want, a trusted advisor to be on your shoulder every so often, where you could lean over and say, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? With my clients, I kind of have a 24/7 policy with them. If something comes up any time of the day or night, just call. I'll answer the phone, and you got a brain fart and you don't want to forget about it, then feel free to call me. So I like doing that kind of stuff. And I'd be remiss to say that, I work with some really good people in my organization as well. Harry Kaplan, who started really, was with a captive at NCR years ago, then ended up ultimately as the startup for Frost Bank Equipment Leasing Group, and 16 years, and retired about 3 years ago and joined me not long after I started. And I work with Tom Ware, probably one of the best in the industry when it comes to credit analytics operations, and John Gerson from Executive Solutions. So John, and I used to work with his mother before him for 30 odd years. And it really is no better when it comes to specific kind of operational placements and that kind of thing, which usually when I'm working with my clients, that's what they're looking for. And then you got, who's not with me, but another consultant, Bob Wax, on the high end, executive recruiting kind of stuff. So I work with all of them, with the exception of Bob right now, but because typically the people I'm working with are the executives. They're not looking for another executive. They're looking for arms and legs, and that's where John's really good. So, kind of it.
I like it. I like it. Why not? I like that.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a big boil the ocean project, I'm probably not your guy. And I guess I'm also not your guy if you think you know it all. And I don't know why you would want me then. So if you're willing to admit you don't know it all, I'm your guy.
It's fair. It's
Because
beyond
if you think you know it all, dog hair flying. If you think you know it all, then I'll help break you that just by telling you you're full of shit, like my one client. So
you know what? If you can record those first couple sessions, that would be relatively entertaining.
I'll have to maybe get a hold of Paul and one of my other clients, and we'll do a little group session. It'd be like a therapy session.
All right, Bob. Well, I really appreciate your time today, sir. And it was great spending time with you last week. Actually, the last couple of weeks between NIFA and ELFA.
Yeah. And I really appreciate what you're doing, and it all helps to further the industry and to further the knowledge. And I'm very impressed with everything that you're doing. JDR is lucky to have you. That's for darn sure. You can tell him I said that.
Hey, it's on here. It has to be true.
Oh, I said that.
Exactly. All right, Bob. Well, I appreciate your time, sir, and look forward to seeing you here in the near future.
Hey, you betcha. Thank you.
Thank you.